So in this model, economic growth simply is a shift in this line, just meaning something has caused me to be able to produce more of one or both of these goods, in this case both. So either more resources if I have more land to use, more labor, so population grows, giving me more labor, more capital. I've invested in machinery and or however I accumulate capital, and better technology. So I might just figure out a better way to use my current resources to produce these two goods. So any one of those things can shift out my curve and get me a better combination of goods than before. So I still can't reach this point, but now I can do better than I could before. You could have a case where, suppose I have a technological advance, I just figured out a better way of producing good B using my resources. Well, then that moves me over here along this line, but let's just say it didn't affect how much A I can produce given my resources. Then you kind of get this rotation where I can, as soon as I start producing more B, I can do better than I did before because I'm better at producing B. So often we'll just use kind of like a parallel shift that can get me to produce more of either good that I choose. So again, where we were assuming constant opportunity cost here with this straight line, we could make this model a little bit more realistic, which is normally what we do if we're just talking about the PPF by itself, and to have it look something like this. So now, again, this is telling me, if I put all my resources into good A, I can get up here, and I just change the numbers. Again, they're just arbitrary numbers. But I can get 18 units of good A, and as I start producing B and moving my resources out of good A, I can get a certain amount of B and having to give up a certain amount of A. So now, because this is a curve, my opportunity cost is changing, and in fact, it's increasing. So if we look at what's going on here, if I go, let's say I go from this point to this point, well, I'm giving up 3 units of A in order to get 6 units of B. So in the beginning, because this curve is pretty flat, if I just give up a little bit of A, I'm going to be able to get a lot of B. And the reason why that is because some of my resources are probably specialized and better at producing good A or good B rather than the other one. So some of my machinery, or possibly some of the skill of my labor force, or any number of things, technology is better suited to reducing A versus B and vice versa. So if I'm cramming all of my resources here into the production of A, I'm really using some resources that are really better suited to producing B, which is why in the beginning it's not very costly to start getting B. So it's cheap in terms of what I'm giving up, which is how much A am I giving up. So here, if I'm giving up 3 units of A, and I'm going to get those first 6 units of B. So the opportunity cost is changing. So I'm not going to talk about what's going on at a particular point, because it would have to be the slope of this line at that point, and we're not going to have this function to figure out the slope. So we're just going to look at a particular movement along the curve, so I can say from this point to this point, the opportunity cost of those first 6 units of B was the 3 units of A that I had to give up. So that move from here to here, I can say what the opportunity cost of B in terms of A was. So now I'm going to keep going, and so here I'm at 15, here's 11, that's 4 units. So now I'm going to give up another 4 units of A, but now I'm only going to get 4 more units of B. So as this, it was flat here, I'm going to get lots of B from giving up some A, but here, it's becoming less flat, so the opportunity cost of producing this good B that I'm producing more of is increasing. It's becoming more costly because now I'm going to get the next 4 units of B, and it costs me 4 units of A. I gave up 4 units of A. So the opportunity cost is changing. It's increasing as I produce more of a good. And again, it's going to keep increasing as I keep. So now I'm going to have that opposite problem. I'm going to start cramming all my resources into good B production, and some of my resources are really not well suited to producing good B relative to good A. And so now it's getting more and more costly to produce good B. So here, if I'm at this point, I've got 5 units of A over here and 14 units of B. To get those last 2 units of B, I've got to give up 5 units of A. So it's becoming more and more costly. How much A am I giving up to get a unit of B? And so as this gets steeper, I'm getting less and less B, and I'm going to start having to give up more and more units of A. So the cost of B is increasing as I produce more B, and it's going to be the same thing if I go in the other direction, except it's going to be the opportunity cost of A that's increasing. So just the exact same reasoning. If I'm producing all B and I start shifting my resources out of B, well, at first it's not going to be very costly to get A, to produce A, because I have some resources that are better specialized for producing A. So just go in the opposite direction. I'm going to give up the first 2 units of B, and I'm going to get 5 units of A. Then I've got to give up 4 more units of B, but I'm going to get 6 units of A. And it's going to get more and more costly in terms of what I'm giving up, in terms of how much B I'm giving up. So here, the last move that I have here is this move of giving up the last 6 units of B, and I'm only going to get that 3 more units of A, right? So it's getting more and more costly to produce good A in terms of good B, right? The opportunity cost is increasing in the production of A. So that's basically the idea behind this model. This curve, this kind of outwardly curved graph is showing me increasing opportunity cost of whichever good I'm producing. As I produce A, the opportunity cost is increasing to produce A. I'm giving up more and more B, and vice versa. And again, I could have economic growth in this model. I could be shifting out this curve if my resource and technology change. Inside the curve is inefficient, so it's the same idea. One variation that you might see of this is you might have the two goods being these categories of capital and consumer goods. And this is just to illustrate the idea that capital is one of the things that is going to grow our economy. We can produce, reason why I'd want to produce capital, invest in capital, is so that later on I can produce more and better things. But in this context, just more things. But so then I can choose at some particular point in time. I could just have lots of consumption, but that means I'm not investing much in capital, or I could postpone consumption. So here's, in a sense, we're starting to talk about savings now, because if I postpone consumption and save some of that income that I'm earning and invest in capital, well, later on, that's what's going to give me a bigger shift in this curve, because that's one of the things that grows our economy. It's one of the resources that allows us to produce more. So more capital is going to allow me to produce more.